Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Sharp Weekly. And in this video, I'm going to show you that how you can persist enum types with SwiftData. And we're also going to see that how you can use enums to filter your queries in SwiftData. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to make a very simple app that will allow you to persist a movie, which will contain the name and also the genre. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import SwiftData over here. Now I'm just going to create the model right in my view, but it's always a good idea to create models in a separate folder. But I want to give you the code much easily in a gist. So I'm just going to go ahead and create everything over here. So we'll create a class called movie. And since we're using SwiftData and this particular class and the contents of this class needs to be persisted to the database, we will decorate it with the model macro. Now I need to create some sort of a properties over here and also initialize those properties. So we'll have a property called name and we will initialize it in the initializer or in the constructor. Great. The next thing that we want to do is we also want the movie to have a genre. A genre can easily be represented by a genre enum. And for these cases, we're going to create a genre for action, for kids, and for horror, but you can have many different genres over here also. I'm going to go ahead and also say that the raw value of each of these cases will be int, so that when we save it in the database, it's an int that is being saved. We also need to make sure that this is codable, or else we won't be able to persist it in SwiftData or using SwiftData into SQLite database. Now we can start using the genre in our movie model. So for the movie model, I'm going to say genre and genre. And in order to create a movie, now you have to pass in the genre also, along with the name. Great. Let's go ahead and build it app. Okay. The next thing is we want to be able to basically create a movie, and we want to be able to select a particular genre for the movie. All right, there are many different ways of doing that. I'm going to choose the easiest way, which is just providing a text box for the movie. I'm just going to say name and going to provide genre over here also. Now you can call this genre, you can call it selected genre. This is perfectly fine, whichever one you want. And we can also initialize the genre with something, let's say action movies, so that one of the options will be selected. Then the next task is to create a text box or a text field. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a text field. And in the text field, I'll say name, and the binding is just going to go into the binding for the name. We can also style the text field to be a little bit more rounded border. And looks good. We can shift everything on the top by using a spacer. Okay, good. We can see the text field right there. The next thing would be to create our picker. Segmented control is fine. Wheel picker is fine. And we need to be able to go through all the different genres. So I'm just going to call this case iterable, which means that I can go through all of these genres and I can simply list all of these genres. Okay, so let's go over here now. We'll use a picker, something style, whatever. It can be genre. Selection is going to go to the selected genre, and the content is where you will actually return what you want to display. So we're just going to go over the genre dot all cases. This needs to be also conforming to identifiable, which we would need to fix or else it's not going to work. Text, which we want to display, genre dot, and you don't really want to display the raw value because the raw value of the genre is simply integers. So we want to display something else like the actual title of the genre. There are many different ways of doing that. what I will do is I will just create an extension on the genre itself. And for every case, I'm just going to return like the correct spelling, like action, kids for action, kids for kids, horror for horror. And since we're here, we can also conform this to identifiable. We want to conform it to identifiable, or else the for each that we have is not going to work. In order to conform to identifiable, you need to make sure that you implement the ID property. So ID property is just going to give you the raw value, and the raw value of all of these things will start from 0, which I don't really want to do. So I'm just going to assign the first one to be 1, and the next one will be 2 automatically, horror will be 3, and so on. Now going back to our code where we are displaying the genre, we can say title. And this is the important part, the tag for the genre. The tag is basically the actual value of the genre when you get selected, and we'll just pass in the genre itself. This means when you select, it will be a genre. Next, let's go ahead and change the picker style to be segmented. Okay, so here we go. So now we have action selected by default. We can select different things if we want to, and we can also go ahead and type the name for a particular movie. Great. The next thing we want to do is we want to be able to save it. So let's go ahead and add a button. And I'm going to say text for the save. And frame, I'm just going to give the frame with the maximum width to be infinity, and then change the button style to be border prominent, so that it kind of expands, as you can see. All right, so that looks good. If you want to give it a little bit more gap or as padding, you can always add some padding if you want to. Padding on the top, we can add like 20 or something. Okay, that's fine. All right, so this looks all really good. We have our name, so our interface is kind of like created, at least for the first part. Now we need to save. All right. So since we are trying to use SwiftData, we'll go over here and we will add a model container. And for the model container, we can pass in the entities that we'll be working on. So the only entity we have right now is the movie. And we can also say that it's in the memory. So this can be a good way to test it out when you are dealing with Swift Xcode previews. In memory means that as soon as the previews run again, everything will be kind of like deleted. It's not going to be persisted forever in an actual SQLite database. It will be persisted in memory. Okay? All right. Now, I'll copy this part and I will go to the app file and also inject it right there, but remove the in-memory, because when you're actually running it in a simulator, we probably want it to be running it like going to the actual SQLite database. Let's go back to the content view. So now we have the model container. That's great. The way that you will save it to the database is by using environment. So we're going to use the environment, model context, private var context, and in the button click, which is right there, I can go ahead and construct a new movie. So movie equals to new movie, providing the name of the movie, which will be name, and the genre of the movie, which will be selected genre. And finally, we can simply say context.insert, and we can insert that part. Okay, let's go ahead and build it. Now, when you do insert it, it's not really going to display you anything, right? It's just going to insert it. But in order to see that what is inserted, it would be a good idea to obviously to display it. Now, how do we display it then, right? We can display it by using a query. And I can go ahead and run this query. I can say private var, and I can go ahead and say this will be, what should we call it? Like movies is fine, I think. There we go, movies. Okay. And right over here, we can run this in a list. For each movies, we will get a movie, and then we will be displaying movie.name, but we also want to display the genre. So let's go ahead and control click on it. We can wrap this in a H stack, and we can probably display the genre by saying genre.title. That's why we created a title field, so that we can easily display the title for a particular genre. Let's go ahead and add a movie. Let's say Finding Nemo, kids movie, save it, Finding Nemo kids movie, great. Batman with the correct spelling, hopefully. There we go. And let's call it the action movie. Okay, so it looks like these things are added. Now keep in mind that all of these things that I'm adding is basically in memory, which means if I just simply press space in my code and just save it, everything is gone. All right. So maybe for the previews, it's fine. It really depends what you're trying to do. Okay. So this looks pretty good. I mean, we can go ahead and add a movie. Let's say, again, I'm just going to say Batman, and I can say save. Now, what about if we wanted to filter the movies? How would we deal with that? Right now, we're displaying just all the movies. Just go through it. It displays everything. But maybe we wanted to filter the movie. Well, the first question would be, how are you going to apply the filter itself? Are we going to use this filter? Or are we going to build kind of like a different filter, like a new filter or something? All right. So let's see. We're going to go ahead. I mean, we can use this, but that will be kind of like this section is kind of like its own section. So I don't want to disturb that. So what I want to do is just create a very basic filter. We can just use 3 buttons for that, but it's up to you. That's a design decision that you can make. But we can create kind of like 3 buttons. One will be like action, one will be kids, one will be horror. And once we click on that, then all these movies will be filtered based on that. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and create, first of all, 3 different buttons and also the filter genre. All right, so I'm going to go over here. We have a list. That's fine, I guess, for now. But I'm going to create 3 different buttons over here at stack and put everything in the S stack. Now, again, this is kind of like up to you if you want to create buttons or not. Obviously, in real app, it will be very different, but I'm just trying to make everything kind of like very simple to understand. Whenever the buttons are clicked, there will be another state property like filter genre that will get populated. So let's go ahead and do that. And this filter genre will be for filtering. So filter genre, which will be the genre. And initially it will be null or optional because we don't really have any filter applied. So there you go. We can see our small filters showing up. Okay, so that's good. Now, we also want to move all of this code into its own control so that we can pass in the selected filter genre. So I'm going to go and create a control right here. And we can call this control anything you want. I'm just going to call it filtered movie list view, which is a view. Here we go. You will need to pass in the genre over here. So we'll pass in the genre that can be nullable. And over here in the body will kind of look exactly like the body that we actually have. So I'm just going to copy and paste the body that we use to simply list all the things. We will also have to query. So let's go ahead and create this query for SwiftData. But one of the differences that this will have is that we will use the init function where you're passing in the genre, not the movies. So let's remove the movies part. And we're going to use that to perform the filter. And what we are going to do, actually, this should be genre, right? Genre. This will be genre. And what we're going to do is we're going to say movies equals to query, and then passing in the filter, not the animation, but the actual filter, which is a predicate. And we can set this predicate. Now, the predicate only works, I believe it only works on the persisted properties because it's going to be creating SQL joins and all that stuff. So if you have a computed property like a transient property, it's not really going to work on those properties. That's at least my understanding. And now I can say if the genre $0.genre for the movie is equals to the genre that we actually passed in, then we will do something. The problem with this approach is the genre that you actually passed in is actually optional. So we will have to do something to unwrap it. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say let genre and just going to unwrap it right there and then use it. Okay. Let's scroll down. So instead of using this list, we can now use our new control, which is a filtered movie list view, passing in the filtered genre, and that's going to show us everything. Now, if genre that you're passing is null, meaning nothing, nil, then we'll just display everything. So let's go ahead and say Batman, save. Okay, so Batman is there. Let's go to the kids' movies. Let's say, I don't know, Finding Nemo or something. Okay, now if I click on these buttons, nothing really happens, which is kind of weird because all of these buttons are actually hooked up correctly, but nothing is going on, right? It's not filtering. And the reason it's not filtering is because this predicate is not really doing anything. When we try to perform this on a genre and comparing it with another value type, which is an enum, which is a genre, it is not comparing it correctly. One of the problems can be that when you do a genre over here, since it's enum, the SwiftData is just not able to process that. So maybe this is a bug. Probably this is a bug because this is not really working out. Even if you go to your actual genre and make it equatable, it's not really going to do anything. It's still going to be the same result, meaning the filter is not going to work. Okay? So the question is, well, how do we solve this? I mean, it would be really nice if this worked because it's nice and simple, but it's not working. So what other paths that we can take? One of the things that you can do is instead of storing the genre as a enum, we can store genre as a genre ID. So we can do that. So let's go ahead and say genre ID, and which will be integer. Now you might be saying that, okay, the whole point of the video was enum, but filtering doesn't work. So what's the point of the video? Well, if you want to filter it, then this is a technique that you'll have to use to store it as a primitive type, meaning as the integer or a string or something like that. But not every single app will require filtration. So if your app doesn't really require you to filter based on the genre or based on the enum, then this technique that we learned earlier on is perfectly fine for you. All right. But if you want to apply the filter, then comparing or performing a predicate based on the enum, it doesn't work. And maybe the reason it doesn't work is that SwiftData is currently not able to process that when we're comparing the left-hand side and the right-hand side, although they're both enums, you have to compare the raw value of the enum, which is stored in the database. And I think it's not able to process that information. So we're going to just help out a little bit out to our SwiftData. We're just going to use the genre ID. This will be used in cases when you actually do want to perform filtration based on the enum. So everywhere where we have passed genre, now we will be passing the genre ID. Actually, you know what? We don't really have to pass genre. I think over here it should be okay, right? I mean, we're just passing in the genre, but when we assign it, we can assign the ID or the raw value. Both are kind of like the same thing. So raw value ID, since ID is a raw value, you can do that. and we're just going to hold on to the genre itself or the genre ID. Okay. Now, what about the genre itself? Should we have a reference to the genre struct? I mean, enum. Yeah, we can do that. So we can go ahead and create that. And this is kind of like for display purposes, and we can pass the genre ID. Okay. And we can unwrap this because there's no way to create a genre which will be, which will not exist. Okay. So this is all good. We are passing the genre, that's good, but this comparison now needs to be updated. We're going to be comparing it with genre ID, and it will be the ID itself. So this is a change that we're going to be making. Instead of using the genre, we are going to be using the genre ID. So both sides, left hand side, right hand side, are both IDs, which is basically integer. Okay. So let's go and run this. After making this change, I'm going to go ahead and add Batman. Okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and add Superman. And let's go ahead and add Finding Nemo as kids movie. Okay, and here we go. Now you can see that we can definitely filter. So our filter for our SwiftData application is actually working fine when we are using integers instead of comparing enums. Okay, so now you can see it working. So there you go. There you have it. This is how you will persist enum, and this is how you will perform filtration based on the enum. So if you have a condition over here where you have an app that needs to be filtering based on an enum, you can use this technique. Maybe in the future, the Xcode team and the Apple is going to fix these issues because it would be really nice if I can simply say $0.genre equals to genre instead of comparing the IDs. So that will be ideal condition. It will look really nice. But for now, that's fine. Thank you so much. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you like this video and want to support this channel, then go ahead and first of all press the like button. If you have any question, comment it. And if you want to support everything that I do, then check out the link in the YouTube description for all of my courses, especially since you're watching the video of SwiftData. You might be interested in my brand new SwiftData course, SwiftData Declarative Data Persistence for SwiftUI. So definitely check out this course. I keep on adding new material to the code. I just recently added Transformable just yesterday. It's a 5-hour course, and I just keep on adding new content. You can see it has one-to-many relationship, many-to-many relationship, queries, versioning, persisting, transformable, migration also. I also added migration part of it, which is versioning and migration. Testing is coming soon. A lot of things I'm still working on, which will be added later. All right. So thank you so much. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Please share this video, like this video. Thank you.